5 spine-chilling true lockdown incidents. Disturbing secrets exposed in haunted schools. Maplewood was a sleepy suburb, the kind of place where children rode bicycles in the cool evening air and neighbors chatted over white picket fences. But tonight, as Laura raced through the dimly lit streets, shadowy whispers of past tragedies seemed to cling to the night. The call had been frantic, an intruder at her daughter Emily's school. Goosebumps prickled on her skin as urban legends flooded her mind, stories of teachers going missing, tales of a cursed history lurking deep within the school walls. She gripped the steering wheel tightly, heart pounding in time with the flickering streetlights that bathed the road in an eerie glow. As Laura pulled up outside Maplewood Elementary, she was struck by the deceptive calm. Parents milled around, faces etched with worry. Her breath quickened, and the memory of those legends hung heavy in the air. The shadows of the school loomed larger than life, casting long veins of darkness that seemed to pulse with the weight of buried secrets. She spotted another parent, eyes wild with fear. Had they, too, heard the stories? Inside, Emily huddled close to her classmates, their soft whimpers almost drowned out by the heavy silence. The teacher, a figure of authority, desperately tried to maintain calm, but the darkness inside the classroom felt alive. Emily's adventurous curiosity bubbled beneath the surface. She dared to peek out the window, and a dark silhouette danced across the hallway, sending icy fingers down her spine. Laughter echoed from the storage room, sending a jolt of terror through the group. The children exchanged glances, panic rising as shadows shifted right before their eyes. Driven by fear and an unusual spark of courage, Emily whispered to her friend Hannah, "Let's find out what's happening." They crept out of the classroom, hearts racing, heading towards the source of the laughter. The school felt like a labyrinth of horrors, a cruel dichotomy of safety and danger. Climbing through a small crack in a door, they stumbled upon hidden passageways and, amongst the dust, old yearbooks filled with hollow eyes that seemed to follow them. Each name a ghost with a story that begged to be unearthed. Outside, the air grew thick as parents shifted anxiously. Laura felt her heart accelerate as the school intercom crackled to life, distorting words sending pulses of fear through her veins. "Lockdown," a garbled message echoed. The janitor's shadow loomed in the back of her mind. The once trusted figure now felt like a ghost of dread. What had he seen? When a piercing scream shattered the fragile tension, Laura's instincts kicked in. She couldn't let the darkness descend upon her child. The oppressive silence that followed that scream was punctured only by frantic whispers of uncertainty. Those once pleasant school halls were now haunted by terror, trust teetering on a razor's edge. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emily's curiosity turned into an unyielding quest for truth, the clock ticked mercilessly, each second echoing their heartbeat. What lay in wait beyond the shadows? The school had secrets that wanted to stay buried, but would Emily and her friends unlock the door to those buried horrors? Or would they find themselves entangled in darkness more sinister than their young minds could fathom? The countdown to uncovering the truth had begun. As Emily and Hannah crept deeper into the belly of the school, a cold draft swept through the passageway, causing goosebumps to prick at their skin. The laughter, once echoing playfully, darkened into something more sinister, a mocking tone that sent shivers cascading down their spines. They exchanged fearful glances but pressed on, step by step, the dim light from their cell phones illuminating the dusty ground ahead. "Maybe it's just a prank," Emily whispered, her voice trembling despite her attempt to sound brave. But even as she spoke, the weight of dread hung thick in the air, clinging to them like a shroud. They reached a heavy wooden door at the end of the hallway, its surface marred by years of neglect. Intrigued and terrified, they exchanged a nod before pushing it open. The hinges creaked ominously, a low groan that echoed through the stillness. Inside, what appeared to be a forgotten storage room lay in disarray, old textbooks scattered across the floor, broken desks piled in corners, and posters peeling from the walls, faces of smiling children now grim and distorted. As they stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind them with a force that rattled their bones. The heavy thud reverberated, and they froze. Panic churned in their stomachs. "Did you do that?" Hannah's voice cracked. Emily shook her head, wide-eyed. They were trapped. "Help!" Emily shouted, her voice laced with desperation. But the silence enveloped them, thick and suffocating. The air felt alive, pulsing with an unseen energy. "Let's look for a way out," Hannah urged, her voice barely above a whisper. They began to explore the room, frantically searching for a window or another door. But each corner they turned brought nothing but a sense of futility, the darkness weaving itself tighter around them. Then, from behind a stack of crates, a flash of movement caught Emily's eye. She turned, heart racing, to find a small figure crouched in shadows, a child, no older than they were, with wild hair and wide, dark eyes. "Why are you here?" The figure whispered, its voice barely audible, yet it felt laden with intensity. "You shouldn't be here." "Where are we?" Emily asked, stepping closer, drawn in by the child's haunting gaze. But before the figure could respond, a loud crash echoed from the hallway, the sound sharp and jarring. The walls vibrated around them, punctured by the sudden chaos outside. "No," the child gasped, eyes wide with fear. "You need to leave now?" From the opposite side of the door came a series of heavy footsteps, purposeful and loud. The children's hearts raced in unison, fear weaving through the air like a tightening noose. "Listen," Emily urged. "We have to get out." She spun back toward the door, pulling at the handle, but it felt locked tight, the weight of panic anchoring her down. "It's too late," the child murmured, its voice dropping to a barely audible whisper. "You're not safe here." Suddenly, the footsteps stopped. Silence thumped heavily, wrapping around them, suffocating. Then, an eerie voice called from beyond the door, deep, guttural. "I know you're in there, Laura." Meanwhile, stood outside the school, panic overtaking her. She had spotted the janitor lingering by a flickering light, a shadow of something ominous lurking just beneath the surface of his calm demeanor. "What do you know?" she demanded, her voice catching in her throat. But before he could respond, the school's emergency lights surged to life, casting everything in a stark, sterile glow. The darkness receded for just a moment, illuminating the school's exterior, revealing figures moving in an erratic dance. "Mom, Emily, Hannah." Her cries were desperate, melding with the cacophony of fear swirling around the school. Laura's heart pounded, each beat echoing her urgency. Inside, the children felt the air grow heavy, the weight of unseen eyes watching, waiting as the heavy thuds grew closer. Emily glanced at Hannah and the child, uncertainty rippling through her. "What do we do?" The child opened its mouth to speak, but the words were snatched away by the chaos unfurling outside. Shadows stretched long, and fear surged anew. What was happening within the darkness that enveloped Maplewood Elementary? Would they find a way out before the shadows claimed them, or was there no escape from the clutches of the unknown? The ominous question hung in the air, leaving everyone breathless. The silence that followed felt like a weight heavy, pressing down on their chests. Emily held her breath, the chill creeping into her bones. Outside, the boredom of the hallway had melted away, overtaken by something dark and relentless. The footsteps returned, reverberating through the walls as if the very foundation of the school shuddered with each step. "Hello?" A voice called, low and mocking. It seemed to swirl around them, wrapping tight like a noose. "Let us play a game." The words curled into their ears, slithering into their minds. What do we do?" Hannah asked, her eyes darting around, wide with terror. The child, who had roused their curiosity and dread, began inching backward into the shadows, as if disappearing might save it from the threat looming beyond the door. The air shifted. Emily sensed something else now, an unmistakable presence thickening in the space, crawling into her skin. "Stay close," she whispered, each word trembling on her lips. They huddled together, the small warmth of their bodies a fragile barrier against the cold dread that a loud bang hit the door, shaking the room violently. "Want to play?" The voice taunted again, distorted like a funhouse mirror. "Let us see how long you last run." The child screamed, suddenly back with them, pulling at Emily's arm. "You can't stay here." "But the door," Emily started, but another pounding crash echoed, and she felt the air grow dense with despair. "Follow me." The child darted toward an area behind a stack of broken desks, beckoning them. Without thinking, Emily and Hannah stumbled after it, their feet barely touching the ground. They landed awkwardly behind the barricades, the darkness swallowing them whole. "Keep still," the child hissed, fear coloring its tone. The pounding resumed, the raspy voice growing more impatient, more sinister. Shadows blended, morphing into grotesque forms just beyond the door, dancing in a frenzy against the weak light. "Please, someone help us," Emily shouted, but the words felt useless, lingering in the air like a whisper lost in a storm. "Stop," the voice outside commanded, tinged with something monstrous. "You can't escape. I own this place, this game." Hannah glanced at Emily, terror etched on her features. "What game?" "Every time someone comes to play," the child murmured, "they never leave the same way." A tremble ran through its frame. "They become part of it. Just like me." Emily's mind raced. "What do you mean?" Panic wrapped around her throat, squeezing tighter, but the child only shook its head, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You need to find the door, the real door. It's hidden." A shriek pierced through the heavy darkness, a scream from another world. Emily clutched Hannah's hand tighter, sensing the walls close in, dragging them down into despair. "Then let us find it," Emily urged, determination battling against terror surging within. We can't end like this." The pounding intensified, splintering the air with each blow. 3-2, the voice counted down, cold and haunting. Emily felt her heart race, a frantic drum, begging for escape. Before she could act, a sudden, blinding light erupted through a crack between the broken desks. It flickered, pulsed. In that electric moment, the disasters outside melted into nothingness. "Now!" the child yelled. They scrambled toward the light, a desperate lunge for the yawning void. But as they reached it, fingers brushing against the edge of freedom, the voice roared from behind them. "Time us up." The ground beneath them trembled, a rift opening with chilling intensity. The relentless dark swarmed to consume them, stretching fingers toward their souls. The light flickered wildly, as if protesting the encroaching doom. Laura's gaze darted around the school, swollen with unease. Shadows danced just beyond her view, animated by an unseen force. What had happened to Emily and Hannah? "I need to get in there." She gritted her teeth, chased by a fear that gripped her heart. With every breath, the air tasted of panic. They were trapped, and something was very wrong. With every ounce of resolve, she pushed against the door, praying to find them before it was too late. The echoes of torment reverberated through the halls, each sound sharp as glass, wounding her spirit. The question clawed at her. Would she uncover the horrifying truth within or suffer the same fate as the girls lost in the belly of the school? The sinister game was just beginning. The door creaked open, a slow, agonizing groan echoing through the ominous hallway. Laura took a tentative step inside, her heart hammering against her ribcage. The air felt suffocating, thick with dread as if the darkness had a life of its own. She strained her ears for any sound that wasn't her own shallow breathing, a desperate hope that Emily and Hannah would answer her call. "Emily? Hannah?" Her voice trembled, wavering in the stillness. No response, just silence, a haunting absence that sent an icy ripple down her spine. Every shadow seemed alive, stretching and pulling away as Laura pressed deeper into the school's heart. The flickering fluorescent lights overhead created a strobe effect, illuminating the remnants of a once happy place, peeling posters, broken lockers, and the faint smell of mildew. This was no ordinary school. It pulsed with an unseen horror, a broken dream gone wrong. As she moved toward the last classroom on the left, a sudden crash echoed from behind her. Laura spun around, heart racing. Nothing but darkness greeted her. Panic clawed at her throat. She knew she had to keep moving. With each step, she felt eyes watching her, prickling heat against her skin. The whispers began softly, indistinguishable at first, then merged into a haunting cadence that lured her further. Come play, come play." The words were rhythmic, soothing yet sinister, tempting her with promises she dared not entertain. Just as she reached for the doorknob of the classroom, a round-faced apparition, a child with wild, tangled hair, popped into view. their face twisted in a mask of fear. Rescue or panic. Please, don't go in there. The spirit pleaded, voice shrill and echoing against the walls. It's a trap. You have to find them. Who? Emily and Hannah? Laura gasped, flooded with hope. Where are they? They're lost. The child cried, terror radiating off them. You must find the door. The real door. It's hidden. If you don't hurry, you'll be trapped too. Suddenly, the sinister voice resonated through the hall again. Leave her alone. It bellowed, contempt dripping from each syllable. She doesn't stand a chance. Laura felt the cold jaggedness of fear wrap around her heart. What do you mean? She shouted, desperation spilling into her words as she looked at the child. What door? What trap? SHHHH. The apparition hissed, glancing nervously at the darkened hallway. You have to listen. The game. It never ends well. The walls seemed to pulse with the voice's anger, shadows elongating and twisting into ghastly shapes. Laura stole a glance behind her. The darkness pressed closer, relentless and consuming. You're too late. The voice mocked, barreling through the air like an agonizing laugh. Run. You have to move. The child screamed, pointing frantically toward the far end of the hall. Before its the child's warning cut off abruptly as the shadows loomed closer, swallowing the figure whole. Laura's breath quickened. She turned and sprinted down the dimly lit corridor, unable to shake the feeling of doom chasing her. Every door she passed seemed to beckon, whispers becoming deafening, promising secrets and horrors unknown. Finally, she skidded to a halt in front of an aged wooden door. Maybe this is it, she thought, her pulse quickening. With trembling hands, she grasped the knob. It felt cold, almost alive under her fingers. But just as she began to twist it, the floor trembled violently beneath her feet. You shouldn't be here. The echoes cried. The air thickened, pressing down on her. A low rumble accompanied the relentless pounding of her heart. In that moment, Laura hesitated, torn between the door that might reveal the truth and the fear gnawing at her sanity. What lay behind the door? The truth, or perhaps another layer of horror waiting to be unveiled. In the stillness, a question loomed. Was she brave enough to step through, or was she already too late? Laura's instincts screamed at her to flee, but the cold doorknob tethered her in place. The whispers crescendoed, swirling around her like a deranged melody laced with urgency. Every instinct told her to retreat from this cursed school, yet she clung to fragments of hope. Emily and Hannah might still be here, waiting, needing her, just as she was about to release the knob. A cacophony erupted behind her, a chorus of rattling lockers, and ghostly children's laughter swelled like a storm crashing through the hall. The ominous shadows danced closer, morphing into shapes that flickered just out of sight. You're too late. The mocking voice slithered through the air, dripping with malice. Heart pounding, she slammed her palm against the door, pushing it open. It swung wide, revealing a classroom steeped in darkness. But something caught her eye. A soft glow pulsated like a heartbeat at the far side of the room. Was it a sign? A way out? Or a further entrapment? Before she could step inside, she heard soft footsteps behind her, lighter, skimming across the floor. Laura whipped around, breath caught. The child, tangled hair and wild eyes stood there again, now closer, blurring the lines of reality. Don't follow it. The apparition cried, pointing past Laura. A figure emerged from the shadows, a tall, slender silhouette that shouldn't exist in the world of the living. It moved without sound, almost gliding, its face obscured by dark hair cascading like a curtain over maleficent intentions. What do you mean? Laura shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. What is happening? I didn't have time. The child's voice tremored, echoing like a distant bell. Find the door, the real door, before it finds you. In that moment, the silhouette surged forward, darting through the flickering lights. Laura's instincts pushed her into the classroom, throwing herself past the threshold. She turned quickly, heart in her throat, slamming the door shut. Inside, it was eerily calm, the glow illuminating a lone desk covered in dust, spectral sheets of paper fluttering as though breathing in the stagnant air. Laura moved toward the desk, eyes narrowing, searching for clues, for a hint of where Emily and Hannah might be. Suddenly, the exhilarating tranquility shattered. The door rattled violently, as if something massive was pounding against it from the other side. Breath hitching, she leaped back, pressing herself against the cold wall. "Let me in." That voice boomed again, now filled with rage. "You can't hide." Terror surged through her veins like ice, pushing her deeper into the classroom. Clutching the desk, she frantically searched for anything that could help. The glow pulsed rhythmically, guiding her gaze to an old, tarnished mirror on the wall, cracked but reflecting the disturbed shadows behind her. But the reflection didn't just show the room. It revealed another world right behind that door. The shadow figure was standing there, grinning back at her, its mouth impossibly wide, teeth like jagged tombstones, eyes glowing with a ghostly light. "No," she breathed, crawling back, fear transforming into a raging swell of panic. Reality trembled around her. The room started to bend. The whispers broke into desperate screams for help. "Find the door." The child's voice rang clear, cutting through the chaos. "There's no escape from this one." With shaky resolve, Laura turned her attention to the mirror again, searching for the truth hidden in its cracks. Could the reflected world hold the key to their escape? Or was she too far gone, lost within the endless game? As the shadowed figure reached for her, a sharp crack tore through the air. Something or someone was breaking through, and time was running out. What would she choose? Face the unknown behind the mirror, or confront the terror waiting just beyond the door? And could the truth save them all, or would it seal their fates forever? Panic gripped Laura as she stared into the mirror, its cracked surface distorting her reflection like a funhouse nightmare. The shadow figure loomed closer, its grin widening, teeth glinting dangerously. She felt an overwhelming urge to escape, but there was nowhere to go. Was it all a trick? Could the mirror show her the way out? Or was it merely a reflection of her despair? "Find the door," the child's voice echoed in her mind, urging her to choose. But time was slipping away, each tick of her heart sinking with the erratic pounding against the door behind her. "Please, just let me out," she shouted to the dark figure, her voice trembling and desperate. As if answering her, the door rattled harder, the wood splintering under the relentless force from outside. Then, in the quiet chaos, an unsettling calm washed over her. The glow from the mirror intensified, weaving through the darkness. Somehow, it pulled at her, like a lifeline tossed into a stormy sea. Moving closer, she noticed faint shapes forming in the reflection, images of Emily and Hannah, their faces twisted in fear, but alive. They were trapped too. "Help us!" Their silent screams resonated through the glass, a plea that clawed at her heart. She reached out to them, fingers brushing against the cool surface. But as her warmth touched the pane, the mirror rippled, distorting their faces into ghastly masks. A chill pierced her. "Laura," the child's voice resurfaced, sharper this time. "The mirror lies. The door is not here." Gritting her teeth, she pulled back, frustration and fear intertwining in her chest. "But where is it then?" she cried out, her resolve crumbling. The sound of splintering would echoed again, sharper, more frantic. "I can't stay here. There's a door beyond the door, but you must choose wisely." The child's apparition flickered, a hint of urgency in its voice. It pointed again, this time to the corner of the classroom, where shadows pooled thick and alive. Ignoring the crashing sounds, Laura turned her back to the mirror, following the child's gesture. As she approached the corner, the air grew colder, wrapping around her like a vine. The whispers returned, rising to a deafening chorus that surged in harmony with her fear. "Help us, save us," something coalesced in the darkness. Another door, partially hidden behind peeling wallpaper and crumbling bricks. Breath hitching, Laura pulled at the handle. It wouldn't budge, a stubborn anchor tethering her at the moment she needed to break free. Panic surged again. She could hear the figure outside, could feel its malevolence pressing against her back. "Laura, hurry!" The child projected itself forward, and she swore she could see fear in its wide eyes. Gathering every ounce of strength, she gripped the handle and yanked. It gave way with a sickening creak, opening into a void darker than the shadows she'd just escaped. What if this led to more horrors? But glancing back at the mirror showed the silhouette now standing just outside her periphery, mouth open wider, mocking her hesitation. With no time to think, Laura stepped through the door. It swallowed her whole, the world spinning as light flickered around her. She landed hard on cold gravel, disoriented. Struggling to her feet, she scanned the new surroundings, a darkened alley between towering buildings, littered with debris and fragments of a past life. The air was thick with decay and despair, a sharp contrast to the whirling energy of the classroom. "Where am I?" she murmured, spinning on her heels. The alley loomed like a prison, an eerie silence pressing against her ears, and then she heard it. Soft whispers, mingled with laughter, echoing from the shadows. They beckoned her deeper into the darkness. Was it a warning or a trap? Laura hesitated, heart racing, the echoes swirling around her. Emily? Hannah? Panic clawed at her throat. But they weren't there. Just the voices, growing louder, insistent. What awaited her in the depths of this alley? Could she find her friends? Or had she been led further into danger? Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but curiosity gripped her tighter. She was already lost. How much worse could it get? As she stepped forward, the alley seemed to shift, closing in around her like an embrace of shadows. She knew she had to face whatever was lurking there, or become a part of the whispers forever. But would the truth she uncovered summon horrors beyond imagination? Would this path reveal secrets meant to stay buried? The whispers grew louder, swirling around Laura like smoke. She squinted into the darkness, straining to see faces hidden in the shadows. They were beckoning her, luring her deeper into the alleyway. Every nerve in her body screamed at her to run. But with every step, she felt a magnetic pull, an irresistible force drawing her in. Laura helped the overlapping voices morphed into words, the desperate cries igniting a flicker of familiarity. Her heart raced. "Is that you, Emily?" she gasped, her voice swallowed by the oppressive silence of the alley. Then, behind her, the door she had just come through slammed shut, echoing like a gunshot. A shiver ran down her spine, signaling that the classroom and its horrors had closed behind her, now unreachable. There was no turning back. The darkness thickened, swallowing the muted light, but as she ventured further, shapes emerged from the shadows. Broken bottles glittered like malevolent stars, their jagged edges reflecting her fear. A chill danced at her neck. She turned slowly, feeling eyes on her. "Laura!" A child's voice, shattered the stillness. It wasn't Emily or Hannah, but someone else. "Help us find us." It pierced through the veil of shadows, a frantic plea that sent ice coursing through her veins. "Where are you?" She was shouting now, echoing her desperation. In response, laughter tinkled like broken glass, sharp and unsettling. Stepping cautiously, she noticed strange markings on the wall, cryptic symbols scratched into the concrete claw marks, or perhaps desperation manifested. They pulsed ominously, and she recoiled, her pulse thudding in her ears. Laura pressed on, only to feel a rush of cold air as if the alley were breathing, alive with hungry anticipation. Voices whispered secrets, but they felt like darts, piercing her mind with despair. "You shouldn't have come here," one hissed, slinking against her temple. "They're waiting for you." Lurking suddenly, a figure darted across her line of sight. Her heart seized. "Who is there?" she called, her voice trembling. Silence answered. She strained her eyes again, but it was as if the darkness had swallowed the phantom whole. Then came a low, rasping growl from the very depths of the alley, like a predator awakening. She could feel it moving closer, coiling around her. "Leave now," the voice whispered directly at her ear, so close she could feel its icy breath. Panic surged through her, and her instincts screamed to run, yet her legs felt heavy, rooted to the spot that a flicker of brightness emerged from the shadows ahead alone. Flickering streetlight swaying with an unnatural rhythm. It cast a dim glow over an old, rusted fire escape ladder dangling above, leading who knows where. Laura stepped toward it instinctively. Just as she reached for the first rung, the laughter sounded again, sharper this time, taunting her. "You can't escape. You chose us." Stumbling backward, she fell against a wall, gasping for breath as the realization struck. Was she truly trapped? The children's faces haunted her now, their eyes filled with helplessness. "No," she shouted, hurling her fists against the wall in frustration that a figure began to materialize in the darkness before her, tall and shrouded in shadows. She recognized the shape, a specter of a lost child. "Help me," it croaked. "Where are you?" Fear curdled in her stomach as she stared into the void where the child once stood. "Find the truth," it whispered, a glint of light glimmering in its translucent hands before disappearing entirely. Truth? She echoed desperately. The air crackled with tension as the alley darkened, swallowing her surroundings again. She couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were watching, and whatever lay ahead was waiting for her to make a choice that could either free her or doom her forever. Darkness loomed closer, creeping toward her like a hungry beast. Would she dare confront the secrets buried in the abyss or succumb to the fear that held her? Before she could decide, the laughter rose again, an eerie crescendo echoing through the alley as if mocking her dread. The choice was clear and yet perilous. What truths waited in the shadows, and at what cost would they come? As more faces emerged from the dark, fear clawed at her insides. To escape may lead to salvation, but what if it led her straight into the jaws of the monsters hiding just out of reach? Would she gather her strength and seek the light, or let the darkness consume her entirely? The shadows pulsed with a life of their own, thickening around Laura like a web, suffocating and suffusing her every breath with dread. Behind her, the laughter echoed, chaotic, mocking, and electric. She could feel it tingling at the back of her neck, urging her to turn and flee. But the weight of the darkness held her firmly in place. The soft rustling emerged from a pile of debris nearby. Laura strained her ears, heart pounding so loudly she could barely hear the whispers. It grew louder, a desperate rustle, filled with urgency and fear. She stepped toward it, each footfall echoing like thunder in the silence, and flinched as her fingers brushed against a cold, slick surface. It was a child's bone, cracked and stained with dark, dried remnants. A scream rose in her throat, but she swallowed it down, forcefully stifling her instincts. What happened here? She whispered, grasping for the truth buried beneath layers of despair. That a figure darted away, too quick to identify, fleeing into the thick shadows, leaving Laura trembling. Stop, she called, but the echo of her plea was swallowed by the darkness, leaving her isolated. The laughter swelled again, reverberating from all around, as if the alley itself was alive and mocking her. Suddenly, she recalled the whisper of that ghostly child. Find the truth. It clung to her mind like a lifeline, even as fear gnawed at her. What truth? Was it hidden in this alley or somewhere deeper, in the very heart of these nightmares? Taking a deep breath, Laura pressed against the wall, pushing forward despite the foreboding weight tightening her chest. As she moved, ethereal whispers flowed through the air, overlapping, weaving sinister tales of long-lost children. Bad things happen in the dark, one voice warned. Shuddering from the depths of despair, the flickering streetlight became a beacon now, its dim glow revealing more incomprehensible symbols etched onto the ground. They formed paths, impossible pathways leading to nowhere. Her eyes darted back to the shadowy recesses, feeling the urge to scream. I will not become one of you, she yelled into the darkness, hoping to quiet the fears clawing at her mind. But the voices only grew more agitated, a cacophony building to a fevered pitch. You're one of us, echoed a chorus, their laughter rising like a chilling tide. A chill swept through her, a premonition that something was moving closer, something ancient and malevolent. Laura turned sharply at the sound of hurried whispers, the heat of breath against her skin, the heavy silence poised to strike. Suddenly, a figure burst from the shadows, tangled hair, hollow eyes, and a mouth twisted in terror. Help, don't let them take you, it cried, reaching out a trembling hand towards her. Who are you? Laura demanded, stepping back instinctively. The child's fingers twitched, curling like tendrils as if to pull her in, to ensnare her. The moment hung heavy in the air, thick with danger. Run, the child echoed, voice fading like a memory, dissolving into laughter echoing off the alley walls, mocking her very existence. Then, without warning, a chilling howl erupted from the darkness, a sound she felt in her bones. Something or someone was hunting her. With panic surging, Laura darted toward the end of the alley, her feet pounding against the cold concrete. But the shadows surged too, and she felt them reaching for her, hungry and relentless. You can't escape, rang out. Blending with the echoes of laughter and sorrow. As she reached the mouth of the alley, the voice of the forgotten child broke through the chaos. The truth lies ahead. Laura stumbled into the streetlight's circle, panting, heart racing. Would she dare venture beyond? Or would the shadows drag her down into their abyss, binding her in their timeless torment forever? The choice loomed heavy, but fate had a way of choosing itself. The streetlight flickered, casting erratic shadows that danced like specters. Laura's breath came out in quick bursts, her lungs straining against the weight of fear. Every instinct screamed at her to run, yet an unseen force anchored her feet to the spot. The truth lies ahead echoed in her mind as she fought against the chilling aura surrounding her. With a shaky hand, she brushed her fingers against the cold steel of the light post, seeking some semblance of comfort. But panic clawed at her throat, tightening with every passing moment. The shadows pulsed closer, a ravenous beast lurking in the periphery, waiting for the moment to pounce. To the truth, she whispered, eyes darting around, searching for any sign of clarity. But all she found were the faint outlines of the alley, an abyss she had barely escaped. Then, just beyond the reach of light, something shifted, lurking, watching. Run, the child's voice echoed back to her, now a distant, pleading murmur. The shadows inched forward as if eager for her response. Laura took a wobbly step, heart pounding, then another, faster this time. But before she could break away, the laughter roared back, a cacophony enveloping her, an orchestra of despair. You can't leave, they chanted, a chorus built from the fears of long-forgotten souls. Suddenly, the ground beneath her shifted, pulling at her feet like a tide of dark water. She glanced down and saw symbols glowing faintly through the cracks in the pavement, roots of malevolence intertwining, grasping, pulling her toward the abyss. No. The word fled from her lips as she tore her gaze away, forcing herself to the mouth of the alley. But terror gripped her, and just as she prepared to plunge into the street, something cold brushed against her skin, a hand, delicate but deathly ice. She gasped and spun around, eyes locking onto a figure emerging from the shadows, a woman, tall and gaunt, with a face shrouded in darkness. The woman's hair floated around her like smoke, and her eyes glimmered with an unnatural light. They're waiting for you, Laura, she cooed softly, the eeriness of her voice chilling to the bone. Come play with us. The horror of recognition struck. She knew this woman, had seen her in nightmares, heard her whispers in the dark. You're part of this. Laura staggered back, recognizing the specter of a long-lost mother whose laughter had twisted into a terror of lost hope. The ghastly whispering grew louder, merging with the woman's promises. Join us, embrace the darkness, it's safer here, they will take you. The ghost child's voice cut through the chaos. Don't listen. You must find the truth before they do. The shadows crawled, creeping closer, weaving around Laura's ankles like snakes. The woman took a step forward, and Laura's instincts flared. She turned, not caring where she ran, as she barreled back into the darkness. Truth can hurt, the woman hissed, her voice melding with the gales of laughter chasing her through the alley. And so can lies. Laura tripped, falling to the hard ground, the cold seeping into her bones as she pushed herself up. She glimpsed behind her a wave of shadow rising, hungry and dark, filling the space where she once stood. A gut-wrenching scream tore from her throat as she sprinted toward the forefront of the alley's mouth. Desperate for the light, she broke free from the shadows. Guilt clawed at her, a choice. Follow the child's voice or face the horrors of the haunted past embodied in the woman's twisted visage. What do you want? She yelled into the night, the question echoing back empty and mocking. The chilling laughter responded, and behind her, the shadows rippled like water. Only what you owe. Adrenaline surged. Laura stumbled into the street, heart racing, but she instinctively looked back. What awaited her? Rounding a corner, she found an entrance, a decrepit door, peeling paint barely clinging to its frame. Above it hung a brass sign, barely illuminated, letters etched long ago. The truth always remains. An inexplicable pull urged her inside. The door creaked open, darkness spilling forth like a bad memory. Would she find answers? Or was it just another trap set by the past? And as the shadows hissed behind her, you can't escape, she stepped forward, fate entwined, into the whispers of truth waiting in the darkness. The door swung shut behind Laura with a heavy thud, echoing like a proclamation of the fate she had chosen. It was dark inside, the kind of darkness that seeped into her bones, whispering secrets and begging her to turn back. But Laura couldn't turn back. Not now. Her heart pulsed fiercely as she stepped deeper into the room, the air thick with a musty scent mixed with something sweetly rancid. Dim light flickered from the walls, revealing remnants of a time gone by, frames without pictures, old desks piled high with dust, and a tattered clock that hung crooked as if time itself had lost its way. "Emily," she called, her voice trembling. "Hannah." The silence that followed was suffocating. Each heartbeat echoed louder against the emptiness, amplifying the dread coiling in her stomach. Suddenly, a flicker caught her eye there. Across the room, a faint glow pulsed gently, beckoning like a distant star. She moved toward it, stepping over shattered glass and broken dreams, her breath quickening with each step. "Please, please be there," she whispered, the words like a prayer desperate for truth. That as she reached the source of light, she spotted a mirror. No, not just a mirror, but the mirror. The cracked surface glowed with an ethereal luminescence, and as Laura approached, she could see movement inside. Shapes danced, shadows of children, their faces twisted in fear, hands reaching out toward her, pleading for salvation. "Help us, please." Their cries chimed in harmony, pulling at her heartstrings. "You have to find the truth." But even as she felt hope surge within her, the shadows from behind her began to weave closer, tendrils of darkness sneaking along the floor. She glanced back, eyes wide with terror. The tall woman stood at the door, the spectral figure of her past, darkness swirling around her like smoke. "Laura," the woman crooned, voice sweet poison. "Let them be. Join us instead. It's warm here, safe now." Laura shouted, shaking her head. "I want tea. I need to save them." She turned back to the mirror, heart racing. "What is the truth?" she demanded, emotion lacing her tone. "How do I save them?" The children inside the mirror screamed, their faces contorting as the darkness pressed them harder. "Find the door," they shouted. "The real door." Time slipped through her fingers like sand. She reached out to the glass, feeling a magnetic pull luring her in. "It's the only way." Suddenly, the room trembled violently, another crash reverberating through it as the woman stepped forward, an ancient wrath in her eyes. "You belong with me." "No," Laura screamed again, pulling back her hand just as shadows twisted towards her, a wave surging, threatening to drown her in despair. On instinct, she grabbed the nearest object, an old, bronze candlestick, and hurled it at the mirror. It shattered against the glass, sparking a blinding light that filled the room. "You're not taking me." As the shards flew, the children's faces blurred into a storm, morphing and swirling as the light cascaded. Then she heard a voice, ethereal and soft, rising above all else. "The truth lies within." With determination ignited, Laura turned back to the chaos, eyes shining with the will to fight. Taking a deep breath, she closed her eyes and recalled her own memories: love, warmth, laughter, and strength. "You may have these children, but you will not have me." In that moment of clarity, she focused on the door hidden within the darkness. The warmth of hope surged through her, filling her with a radiant energy she had yet to embrace. "Find the door," echoed again, the children joining in chorus, their tones melding into power. She traced her fingers along the walls, following the resonating energy until she felt a cold spot, something buried within the nightmares. There it was, a latch, hidden beneath the cobwebbed corners, concealed by years of neglect. "Time to reveal the truth," Laura whispered to herself, and with a shaky hand, she flung the latch open. The door creaked as she pulled, and light burst forth, a blinding, white radiance sweeping across the room. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the light as the woman howled, the darkness retreating, battling against the raw might of the truth Laura summoned. "Now!" the children cried, and Laura took a leap, diving through the emerging portal of light. Everything blurred into a whirlpool of sensations. Warmth surrounded her as they flew, the dark tendrils dissipating with each rushing moment. When she landed, the cold gravel was gone. As the echoes faded, Laura blinked, her surroundings slowly coming back into focus. She was outside, in front of Maplewood Elementary. Breathing in the cool night air, she stumbled back against a warm body. "Mom." Emily's voice broke through the haze, safe and sound. Her daughter's arms wrapped around her, squeezing tight. "You came. I was so scared." Laura gasped as she held her close. Tears brimmed her eyes, a mixture of fear lost and joy reclaimed. Hannah stood beside them, equally relieved, exchanging bright smiles that shone hope in the darkness. "I thought I'd lost you both," Laura whispered, shaking with adrenaline and alive with gratitude. "But I wasn't giving up." In that moment, they were whole, the shadows finally banished. But a last whisper echoed silently in the distance, a reminder that truth and darkness were intertwined, lurking just beneath the surface, waiting. As the police arrived and parents wept with relief, Laura knew the shadows would not linger long. After all, they had a way of returning. But she also knew, as the years went by, she would never stop fighting for the light. And this time, she would keep the door unlocked. Don't miss the next chapter in Maplewood's haunting tale. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more horror fans who need to hear these tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait even one more second. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support matters, and only true fans understand its importance.